Hello all, it's the Bookworm, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, please click the subscribe button to keep updated with our content and more audiobooks to follow. Today, we will be listening to the Tales of Deltora. I do hope you enjoy. One day the sorcerer of the mountains left his den and flew to a high, snowy peak from which he could see the lands below. He gazed down at the green land to the north of the mountains and smiled. For years he had watched it. He had learned the source of its strength and found out its weakness. He had made plans for it, and soon those plans would be put into action. He was strong now, very strong. His hands held the power of life and death. He could wither growing things with a touch. He could create half-life from scraps of bone and flesh in the green land. His schemes would have room to grow, and then the sorcerer turned and looked down at the land of dragons with a sneer. No doubt the dragons believed they had defeated him. They could think what they liked, as far as he was concerned. His revenge could wait, though, and would be all the sweeter for it. In time, the dragons would be destroyed, and their lands would be his, if only he could find a way. Ice was forming on the sorcerer's face and on his hands. Cold and heat no longer troubled him, but he was still mortal. He knew it was time to return to his den before his body froze. He prepared to leave, but as he was about to do so, his foot touched something round beneath the snow. Curious, he scraped the snow away, and there he saw an egg. Lying in a nest of stones, the egg was huge, with a thick, lumpy, spectral scale. The sorcerer's heart leapt. A dragon's egg! He bent and lifted the egg from his hands. It was cold, cold as ice, but he knew it was alive. He could almost see the small heart beating beneath the molded shell. He could almost see the curved, transparent claws, the spiny tail coiled around the sleeping infant body. How often had he sent his sniveling followers out to search for dragon eggs? How many times had they returned empty-handed to face his wrath? And now, the thing he had been searching for, the key to his destruction of the land of dragons, was in his hand. The dragon in this egg will know me as its master, the sorcerer said to the cold gray sky. For its scales, teeth, and flesh will I create a new race of dragons, a dragon army that will fight for me, destroying their kin in my service, and the land of dragons will be mine. He put the egg beneath his cloak and took himself back to his den. So gleeful was his mind, so filled with plans, that he did not remember that dragons' nests were always lined with human hair. In the warmth of his den, he took the egg from beneath his cloak and placed it in a bowl of table. He ordered his servants to build a fire. Then he sat in a chair and waited. The den grew warmer, and after one day the egg moved, and then came a sharp tapping sound. The sorcerer sprang from his chair. A dark crack marked the huge egg's shell, and watched as the crack lengthened and broadened as the last of the egg split in two. But the creature that crawled out, a strange, naked creature with stubby wings and long, awkward neck, and a beak that seemed far too big for its body, was no dragon. It was some sort of bird. Sick with disappointment and rage, the sorcerer raised his fist, intending to crush the life out of the miserable, squawking thing in the bowl. And something made him hesitate. Perhaps it was the way the bird's beak snapped closed like a trap. Perhaps it was cruel talons scrabbling on the surface of the bowl, or perhaps it was just the cold, clear thought that he could not have a dragon. Then perhaps he should make do with what he had, at least for now. Certainly it was not pity that made him lower his hand, and it was not pity that made him fetch raw meat, tear it into the bloody strips, and watch the creature feed. He knew that his creature was not Naive to the land of dragons, his servants had told him of every bird and beast they knew, and none of the birds they had described was like this one. Almost certainly its mother had been brought in a boat from a foreign land, then escaped to lay this egg on the mountain top, and he had found it. On the eve of his first triumph, he could see the way it tore its meat that it could be trained to kill. He could see by the size of its beak and the claws that it would grow to be very large. The children of its flesh would be larger still, larger, stronger, and more savage. When he had finished his dreaded work, they would have teeth and spines and endless cunning, and they would be his devoted servants, killing and destroying at his command. The work would take him time and space, but soon he would have all the space he desired, and what was time when the end of his will would triumph? The sorcerer rubbed his blood-stained hands, his eyes shone red in the firelight as he made his plans.